What do people think right now about the direction of the country?
We've consistently seen a more positive swing on that question. That people, certainly since Trump has been inaugurated, they're feeling better about the company. It ebbs and flows, but we certainly don't see any of the downward feelings where the majority of people felt badly about the future that we saw during the Biden administration. Like I said, it ebbs and it flows week to week, and sometimes it has to do with a cacophony of things. I mean, it might be what somebody's been paying for gas, or I had somebody the other day that somebody said, I hadn't noticed the gas has been 250 for a few months, and I realized I probably owe Trump for that. So I just answered that in a poll. But it's when it kind of hits you how things are going, but there's just a positive feel, and you're hearing things about inflation being low, about the stock market being high, and you're not seeing all the stuff that makes people kind of feel bad about the future right now.
Hey guys, happy Labor Day. I hope you had some family time, some downtime this weekend. Thanks to everyone who actually worked. I know it's Labor Day, but not everyone gets the day off. So thanks for everyone who was out there actually making sure that people could run around and do their errands if you had a big September off. We just passed the 2-year mark of the show. I can't thank you guys enough for everything that you've done to make this a huge success. Please continue to spread the word, share the link, ask people to join us at 6 o'clock for the premiere. More importantly, just spread the word about the show. It continues to grow and grow and grow. Our growth on YouTube has been absolutely crazy. We've got a big September planned for you. I'm calling out all the stops, trying to get everybody I know to get on board. So I appreciate you joining with us. Robert Cahaly is going to be here. It's a conversation that we had a little while ago to talk about what matters in polling, who we can trust and who we can't. But as we talk about everything that Trump changes, it occurred to me the other day, it's not just the policies. It's actually the actual White House itself. And he is going to leave a mark beyond the policy, but actually on the White House. He actually last week named a chief design officer. And you think about all the stuff that he's done, from the Rose Garden to the flagpoles to the Oval itself. And so he hires this guy who says, my directive is to update today's government services to be as satisfying to use as the Apple Store. Beautifully designed, great user experiences, run on modern software. This is really cool. It's thinking about government in the way that Trump thinks about, a hotel or a business. And I've watched Trump walk through a hotel in his golf course, and he sees things. He's got a knack for understanding what looks good, what needs to get done, and it's amazing. So I think that this is, but just to give you a sense of what I'm talking about, like the Rose Garden now, which was very beautiful, but it was completely unfunctional. Ask any woman, reporter, or guest that went to a Rose Garden thing, your heels would fall into it, the ground would get wet, and everyone get disgusting. He actually redid the Rose Garden. It looks beautiful now. And then look what he did to the Oval Office. It is unbelievable. It looks completely different. Check this out. Look at the side by side. If you're watching listening on Apple or Spotify, I've posted it on my Instagram, Sean M. Spicer. But check out the differences. I mean, he's really redecorated the White House. The first time it was very classic, very normal. This time he's like, hey, guess what? I want to make it like me. And they always ask you, what desk do you want to use? What rug do you want to use? What couch? But he has really transformed the house. The ballroom that he's building now, right? All this stuff, he's leaving his mark. And I've said this before. I said it on Friday, and I'll say it again now. It's only when you have time to think about these things that you can actually do them. So he's out of office for a while, and he says, it's crazy. We don't have a ballroom. You can't really have big events. The East Room, I think, is capped at like 230 people. But we'd love to have a lot more. We want to have big events here. And when it rains outside, you can only, you cancel things and you have to bring them inside. You cut the guest list immediately from the South Lawn to the East Room. So you might have had 1,000 people. Now, why not have a ballroom? Why not make the Rose Garden more practical? Why not leave your stamp? And I love it's very much Trump. And that's great. So I want to begin our conversation. You guys heard this earlier with Robert Cahaly about all of the polling that's out there. What's accurate? What should we look at? What should we look for? Who can we trust? Who can't we? So much that we get bombarded with because it makes so many decisions. The media will say, oh, well, this issue's up, this issue's down. But is that really the case? And that's what I want to get to with Robert Cahaly. So before I do that, though, I want to tell you about another great guy that you guys have heard me about. I mentioned that we just crossed the 2-year mark. One of the guys that's been with us since the beginning is my buddy Leo Grillo at Delta Rescue. If you go to deltarescue.org, you can see the great work that he does every single day. Without a lot of credit, to be honest with you. This is a guy who I think deserves some kind of big medal or award for what he's done for animals. Dogs, cats, horses, you name it. It's the world's largest no-kill sanctuary. I've told you guys before, but when I first met Leo and we were talking, I said, oh, I've rescued 3 dogs. He said, Sean, I don't have a shelter. I'm not looking to place these animals. I'm taking care of all of them. Abused, neglected, malnutrition. He takes care of everything with all the veterinary care that they need for life. And he does this because of a passion that he has for animals. It's a calling. And it's amazing. Go to deltarescue.org. Look at the videos. I was so moved. I went to deltarescue.org and made a contribution there myself. I'm an animal lover, and I know that I can only adopt, 1 dog at a time. That's all we can handle. But Leo Grillo does it for everyone, and I love the work he's doing. So if you can go to deltarescue.org, join me in making a contribution. I would really appreciate it because I love that. And there's a little tab up top called the Estate Planning Kit. I want to help make Delta Rescue an enduring mission. That it goes on and on and on for generations to keep helping these animals because he doesn't take any government money or USAID function. It's all him. He's a machine, the guy. So go to deltarescue.org and join me in making a personal contribution. And then think about if you have an old 401k or something that you can do to help make this. Talk to your financial planner because maybe there is a tax benefit now. By the way, I mentioned this weekend, you guys might have been out there barbecuing or doing whatever. I know I was. One of the things that I always do now, I love bringing or serving Masa Chips. I was so excited to meet the owners a couple months back at a MAHA event right before Bobby was confirmed as HHS secretary. They had this big MAHA event. These guys were there. We were serving Masa Chips. And I said, I need to try one of these. I've seen them all over the internet. I hear a lot of MAHA people talking about it. And boy, am I hooked now. I got the variety pack. They've got lime, which I love, habanero, original. They've got a blue one. They're all amazing. And no matter if you are a chip lover and you're a snacker, I'm a snacker, but I want to do something that's more MAHA approved because back in the day, all these chips were cooked in tallow. Not anymore. They're all seed oils. The cool thing about Masa Chips is there's only 3 ingredients: corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. That's it. So these are literally the MAHA approved snack for you. Check it out. They taste great. They're crunchier. They're tastier. If you're a dipper for salsa or guac or whatever, you'll love these things. But I bring them now wherever I go. I'm like, oh, would you like a Masa chip? I feel like I'm trying to get people. That's how good I feel about them. And I'm telling you, when you buy these, get the variety pack because I love all the different flavors. They are literally the way to go if you're a snacker. Go to masachips.com/Sean, and then you have to use code Sean. So it's Masa, MASA, chips.com/Sean. Code word Sean, SEAN, for 25% off your first order. Get as many as you can the first time. I'm telling you, it's a smart move. All right, without further ado, my buddy, the president of the Trafalgar Group Polling, is Mr. Robert Cahaly. Let's welcome him in. Robert, good to see you. Thanks for joining us as we head into the weekend.
Yeah, awesome to be here in the midst of a little vacation, but you get a chance to talk with Sean's wife, you make it happen.
Dude, if my family told me in the middle of wherever you happen to be that I was going to stop my beautiful vacation as we head into a weekend to talk on a podcast, I'd get a little upset. So it means a lot. Thank you for, as always, coming through big for the show.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's just start with a very basic question. What is the mood of the country? You guys in polling love to ask a question about the direction of the country. What do people think right now about the direction of the country?
We've consistently seen a more positive swing on that question. That people, certainly since Trump has been inaugurated, they're feeling better about the company. It ebbs and flows, but we certainly don't see any of the downward feelings where the majority of people felt badly about the future that we saw during the Biden administration. Like I said, it ebbs and it flows week to week. And, sometimes it has to do with a cacophony of things. I mean, it might be what somebody's been paying for gas. Or I had somebody the other day that somebody said, I hadn't noticed, but gas has been $2.50 for a few months. And, I realized I probably owe Trump for that. So I just answered that in a poll. But, it's when it kind of hits you, how things are going, but there's just a positive feel. And you're hearing things about inflation being low, about the stock market being high, and you're not seeing all the stuff that makes people kind of feel bad about the future right now.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I look at very tangible things, and maybe that's not how everybody views things. But last week, I think I paid $2.93 a gallon for gas. Eggs were, I'm trying to remember what a dozen, because it depends if I get sent it to the convenience store or the commissary to buy them. But I mean, I know that they're down. I get a sense that, like, to your point, I don't feel like inflation's jacking things up like it was a year ago. Like I said, the gas prices are low. I get a sense that we're making wins. Like, I mean, what is it? Is it a partisan thing now, where just people who are in the opposite party, in this case Democrats, are just reflexively saying I don't like things, and Republicans or are there actual factors that drive, to your point, the ebbs and the flows?
Oh, I think it is a factor of the economy. It's how the economy hits you day to day, and it's just, and it may just be a feeling, that you pick up from. I mean, it really is amazing that, I mean, just little things like people feel a little looser with their language, that they're not so careful, that they're not so aware they're going to offend people. All of this stuff where people just kind of feel like the noose has been, loosening from around their neck, a noose that they felt like was getting tighter for 4 years. They just feel like, hey, the noose has gotten loose up to the point where I kind of forgot there might even be a noose there, and some of the people are starting to realize there's not even a noose left. But that was that feeling that things were so tight that it was a matter of just, I'm going to be hanged in the public square for saying something wrong, or for, sending out the wrong kind of message, or for, telling a joke. I mean, just everything feels better. And we're getting that from people, again, just their ordinary everyday life. That one of the things, feedback we get, is that life doesn't seem to revolve around politics the way that it did a year ago, the way that it did in the past. That, we don't see people pushing agendas on us everywhere like we did. And that's everything from what was going on with Budweiser or Target or any of this stuff. I mean, it was just that whole thing that they really feel like, it's okay just to watch a football game, and it's, it's okay to just, go to a comedy club, and it's just okay to have a backyard barbecue with some friends, and not worry that, oh, did the people I invite, is that going to offend somebody, that some group got left out, or is it okay just to invite my friends, and irrespective of who they are? I think that there's a lot of people who just don't want to have to think about politics moment to moment, and this feels like there's been a loosening of that, where they can just kind of live their life and, kind of live and let live. And there has something in that attitude that you could live and let live for quite a while.
It was funny when the Sydney Sweeney jeans ad came out, whatever it's been now, a week or 10 days ago. At first, I was rather dismissive. I was kind of like, who cares? Like, it's a jeans ad. And then the firestorm started to ensue. And I realized how things had changed, right? To your point, you mentioned Budweiser and all these other woke things that happened culturally, where everyone had to, denounce something, cancel something, censor something. And here we were going back to...
They loved the beer they were canceling. And I know a lot of people who did. And, those people are happy to be able to just drink the beer they like without worrying about it now.
And it's funny you say that, because I know this sounds silly, but like, if you think of most artists, like music, right? Now, I'm a big country music fan, so it's not as prevalent in that, but I also like James Taylor. I grew up listening to him, right? He is a far leftist guy. And I think of some of these, even Taylor Swift, right? I'm not a Swiftie, just to be clear. For the record, I'm not a Swiftie. But I actually can go to a concert and like someone's music and not care about their politics. And I felt like for 4 years, you had to decide who you were going to see and hear based on whether or not that person aligned, or whether you wanted to subject yourself to it. I know it was funny. I was talking to someone the other day who was, I think it was Nirvana, maybe. No, was it? Anyway, they were talking about how they'd seen a band and people were yelling from the audience, just sing, right? So whatever the band was, God, I can't remember. They were saying that
I can think of one. I went to a Coldplay concert, and it was just point. I was like, you guys are
now, did you behave yourself? Did you behave yourself, Robert?
I sure did. And I wasn't there with somebody that I was ashamed of being there with. And it was a wonderful concert in Atlanta. They had the roof open. And it was just like, other than the 3 or 4 minutes of proselytizing, it was like, just sing, man. You ain't got to try to sell me on a political agenda. It's like, when you're singing, I'm happy. And when you're preaching, I ain't. I didn't come here to preaching.
But I think to your point, there's a shift now where people are back to just sell me a good pair of jeans, just give me a good beer, sing a good song. I don't want to hear about your politics. And that's where I think the fundamental difference in this country is now, is before you had to pick a side. You had to go to a concert to listen about politics or drink a beer to make a decision. Now it's just back to, you want to talk politics? Watch the Sean Spicer show. Listen to Robert Cahaly and the Trafalgar Group. But like, you knew where to go get it. You can actually feel like you don't have to inject politics into everything.
That's exactly right. And that's been such a freedom. And it had gotten so bad, and you're just so frustrated by it. But the one thing, and this is, listen, I've heard the expression that, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so, of course, I'm going to bring it back to polling a little bit, but I think it's part of, people do not understand the effect that bad polling has on your life, because somebody told the NFL doing all that stuff was the right answer. Somebody told Budweiser. Somebody did a poll that told them this. Somebody told Target. Now, some of those companies, I know who they are. But the point is, what's happening is people are beginning to realize that some of those companies had huge agendas. And a couple of the companies in particular that sold this nonsense were way off again this election. And so, we keep preaching one simple thing. Look at people's year in, year out lifetime error rate. And the fact is, if you can't predict elections in this business, if you can't publicly say, here's what's going to happen state by state, and have an error rate that is respectable, then no one should listen to your private poll about your product. No one should listen to your presidential approval rating poll. And they should stop making decisions based on it. There are tons of these polls that you look at the president's approval rating every single week, and 5 or 6 of the biggest differences, 8, 10-point swings, are all companies that blow elections year in and year out, or even worse, companies that refuse to do election polling. And that's like that smart kid in school who told you, I'm so smart, I don't need to take a test. Well, if you won't even produce anything in public to judge you by, why in the hell is anybody listening to you? So this is important. It affects your life, and you don't know it.
Oh, no, but I think you're absolutely right, because it drives everything, right? Because the media then says, wow, 70% of the people agree with Budweiser. We're going to write a story about that. We're going to cover a protest of Budweiser because apparently it's very popular. We're going to not cover something else because it's clearly not popular. I agree with you. It drives so much.
And they're telling them in their boardrooms, this is where your customers are. And the fact is, they learn real fast. This is not where their customers are.
Okay, so let me...
And that's exactly what's wrong, is that some of these people, it's amazing how many people in the C-suite have good, intelligent minds, and yet they're letting people read them a poll that is clearly opposed to their life experience, and yet they listen to these people, and they got to stop listening.
Okay, so let's keep the analogy going with C-suite. I'm the CEO of Corporation X. I need to make a decision. Now, if I come to my marketing team and I say, and they say, we're gonna do this ad campaign, and sales go up, I go, wow, you did a really good job. If sales go down, you did a really bad job, right? Or I've got someone who helps me, tell me where I should make my investments for retirement. And if I don't make money in a given year, I say to them, why should I stay with you, right? And maybe they'll explain the market was down overall and we're left, okay.
And shouldn't it work that way with polling?
That's what I was going to ask you, though. Why is that different? Like, if I'm the CEO of a Fortune 100 company, NFL, Target, Budweiser, and you tell me, say the following, or your customers are here, and it's an epic fail, then why did these people, why are they not being called out? Because I asked this
because they made the company sign a non-disclosure form, because the company isn't allowed to tell you who they hired. Who told them that?
Oh, my. So it's just because I was going to ask you this. As we head to another midterm, and again, same thing, because everyone's going to do you want to talk about things that affect our lives. Republicans are going to take back the House. No, they're not. This is all stuff that they're going to talk about. And they're going to use the media a lot of these public polls that are epically wrong over and over and over again. And so how do we as consumers know where we can count on that is more reliable versus non-reliable?
Now, let me tell you about something new that we've kicked off. You probably heard about it. Is we've started with three other polling companies, and we're starting to add new members now, the National Association of Independent Pollsters. And the way you get in this group is you have a low error rate. You do public polling, low error rate. You're not controlled by a big network, a big university. It is for American pollsters who are calling it right. And the founding members of this group are the Trafalgar Group, Insider Advantage. You've seen Matt Cowrie all over TV for years, who runs Insider Advantage. The Big Data Poll, that's Rich Veris, the People's Pundit, behind that one. And, of course, Rasmussen Reports. And our four firms have been more accurate cumulatively than every other one of any of these private firms. And so, and we've already started taking we're going to be announcing new members in the next week, and we're going to grow this thing. And so we're going to have like a list of groups that you can count on our approval ratings to be real because our polling results are real. And so that's part of what we're trying to do is point out in any given moment, you can go through and look at, all right, if you just take out just the ones who have election success, you'll see a totally different approval rating for the president. You'll see it 50-50. Our last one, we had him up 52-48. But, you know, these crazy negative down 12, that's just insane. And it's just insane from people that were that wrong on the presidential election and the last three elections. These people who said Kamala was going to win, that Biden was going to win in a landslide, that Hillary was going to win. They don't know what they're talking about. And so you're going to see more and more the people that you can put, put your faith on that have proven year in and year out, they know what they're doing. And there's some young up-and-comers that we're going to be having join this group that are out there doing, kind of on the scene just the way we stormed on it in 2016. And listen, a lot of these young guys that are doing this stuff are just beating the pants off these people who have been doing it for years. I've been, jokingly referring to these people as the Pony Express pollsters for over 10 years now, and that is exactly what they are. They're doing things the old way, and their results stink, and they refuse to change it. And they have their little own association where they pat each other back and give each other little trophies and all kind of stuff. But these are the same clowns who said after 2016 that there is no such thing as a shy Trump voter. No such thing as a shy Trump voter. Everybody in America knows a person in their life who voted for Trump and who won't tell everybody they voted for Trump. So how can you tell people that something you know to exist as a person isn't real? That's what you do when you're in an echo chamber full of people who all tell each other you did a great job when you fail.
So let me ask you, the people that are wrong a lot, and I'm thinking of some of the public university polling outfits.
Or some of the ones that networks that have three letters. Most of them are wrong.
Okay. I get asked this a lot, but I want to ask you as the expert on this. Are they wrong because they're biased? Are they wrong because they're stupid? Or are they wrong because they're cheap? Or D, all of the above?
Nope, not C. They're not cheap. Ain't nothing cheap about these people. They charge a lot of money for trash. So yeah, this comes in the fundamental question. Is the purpose of a poll to reflect the electorate or to affect the electorate? And a lot of these polls, I am afraid, are designed to affect the electorate. They're designed to kind of make you give up, not want to vote. I mean, there's a lot of that going on. And sometimes, you get the feel. Sometimes I feel like, yeah, I do think there's a little bit of thumb on the scales with some of them. They kind of know what they want, and they adjust things based on that. Like we all adjust weighting and stuff based on our anticipated turnout. Well, our goal is to adjust, and to wait as little as possible, but to make sure that we are coming as close to what the turnout is going to be. We're not adjusting for result, we're adjusting for accuracy. But I fear that some of them are adjusting for result. Now, some of them are just bad at polling. you know, and all I can say to them is bless their hearts. They're just bad at this. But some of them, I think, are not bad at polling. I think they're bad at honesty, and why not bless their heart?
No, definitely not. And that's the thing I find fascinating, though, is if you're a media outlet and you know that you're off that often and you don't make a change, then that's on you. There's an epic discussion that occurs from time to time among political folks about that Iowa poll that Ann Stelter did. And there are people that are very defensive of her. My morning colleague, Mark Palprin, will defend her to the end of the day. He thinks she's... But here's my question for you. If knowing the outcome of the elections for the last 10 years in Iowa, and you got a poll that she did that showed that Donald Trump was basically losing Iowa, wouldn't that make you scratch your head?
Well, I mean, look at what it did. The problem is the establishment believes in her so much. The two big averages at the time, 538 and Nate Silver, which were separate in 2024, both of them had it almost dead even the weekend before the election. And then the Seltzer poll came out and they moved Kamala up. They believed in her so much, they lost their own credibility over it, predicting a Kamala victory. Now, the fact is, she's been right in Iowa in the fall elections recently. Well, guess what? It ain't hard to get Iowa right in the fall. It just isn't. Now, when you look at things like the primary, which is real fight, well, wait a minute. Wrong in 16 and then wrong again in 24. She had Nikki Haley a strong second. Nikki Haley finished third. And she had a very small gap for Trump, and Trump won it big. So again, she had the major thing wrong with the order and Haley and DeSantis backward. And in 2016, she had it wrong. So she hasn't done a Republican primary right in Iowa since, I think, 2008. That's a long time. Well, no, actually got that one wrong, too. I forgot. Because that one ended up going back to Santorum. So, yeah, I think she's got to go back to 2000 to get Iowa primary right on the GOP side. So that's a long time ago.
So let me ask you another question, then I want to get back to the mood of the country. But one of the things that I hear sometimes pollsters say, let's say it's 10 days out of the election and it's Spicer versus Cahaly. And 10 days out, Spicer's up 48-44 over Cahaly. And on election day, Cahaly pulls it out 50-46.
And that's just opposition research. We found out what you didn't want anybody to know, and we made you own that stuff the entire month of November.
You got the pictures from college, didn't you?
I did.
The funny thing is, you say that like you probably do have it. I
think you and I were lucky enough to go to college right before.
Oh my God! I thank God every day there weren't digitals.
That's right. They just printed pictures that can be destroyed, burned, whatever. They ain't uploaded anywhere.
That's right. So if the election 7 days later turns out that Cahaly beats Spicer 50-46, a pollster will say to me, yeah, well, 10 days out, that was a snapshot. It's like shooting two cars on a highway, right? Car X on the left might be ahead of car Y on the right, but you didn't see car right going faster and overtaking car left.
But let me tell you why that's different now. That argument made sense in years and years past, because most people voted on election day and you didn't have weeks and weeks of early voting. But by now, when you're a week out, 10 days out, you've got so much early voting data, you've got probably over 50% of the electorate has already cast their vote. There's not going to be that big old shift that we used to have at the last minute because of early voting. So keep in mind, that is becoming less and less of a viable excuse as the years go by.
All right. Well, you mentioned the president's approval rating and how you guys have it. Where do you peg it right now? Where is the president's approval rating among the electorate?
The last time we did it, we had a 52-48. And let me also tell you this, and this is the way, especially, there's people putting all this Epstein this, Epstein that. What we have found is the best way to do that is you ask about Epstein. You ask about all that other stuff, and then you say, all right, all that considered, Let them make their piece about that they're not happy with that. But you say overall, what you say he's done, improve, strong improve. Then you can get a more accurate position. But what happens is some people are simply asking the approval question without letting people their frustration on one issue here or there, and they're not getting an overall. But if you break it down to issue by issue and then an overall analysis, we still feel like he's above water, even with that. Because even people who are mad at him about the Epstein stuff, overall still think he's doing a good job. That's what nobody gets. Somebody who's mad about that isn't ready to go vote for the Democrats. And they're not ready to go vote for Democrats in the midterm either. You can be frustrated with someone you love for one little thing that they're doing or not doing and still be a supporter of theirs.
Sounds like the Red Sox fans. You can...
or the Braves fans.
Yeah. Trade a couple pitchers. Anyway,
Tell me about it.
But this is where I sort of... Let's just assume, if we can, most Republicans, like 90%, love Donald Trump. 90% or more of Democrats don't like Donald Trump. But then we've got some area in the middle, which is the quote-unquote independent, the people who kind of switch here and there. We just passed the 200-day mark of Donald Trump's presidency. And when you look at the list of things that he's done, okay, DOGE, tariffs, bringing in billions in new revenue, not just the revenue piece, but holding our trading partners accountable. When you look at what he's done with MAHA, making us safer and more solving wars, the big, beautiful bill and tax cuts. As somebody who looks at a politician and says, this guy promised me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and probably 8 done. I just don't know, like, where I get Democrats. I'll write them off and say, you just never liked him. You don't like him personally. He can't do anything to please you. I'm actually still surprised that he's not in the mid to high 50s, just because independents would say, you know what? He actually got the border secure. That in itself, I would assume, would have driven people.
It kind of reminds me of a Chris Rock bit when he starts talking about a guy taking credit for paying his child support and paying his bills. And he said, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. And I almost feel like when it comes to securing the border and everything, that people are like, well, that's what you're supposed to do. And it's like, check it off. But like, as soon as it's not a problem that's like in your face, it's kind of in the background. And nobody looks back and goes, yeah, but this was a real problem a year ago. But, there's a list of things that, as Chris Rock would say, a president is supposed to do. And Trump's been doing those things. So it almost gets to the point where you don't get credit for the stuff you're supposed to do, even though the guy before you wasn't doing.
But that's what I find fascinating. Like, in politician world, the thing that I say that's so funny about Trump is that most politicians will come back and say, unfortunately, I was trying to do it, but it rained on Tuesday and the Congress wouldn't do this. Trump actually is getting more done than any politician in history. Now, if you don't like him, you're probably pissed about that. But the bottom line is, I don't think there's a politician. We always talk about the first term, you want to get 1 or 2 signature items done. And I'm thinking to myself, he got signatures done. I mean, like, items, plural, the big, beautiful bill, the tariffs, the trade stuff, the foreign policy. Like, he's gotten a lot of things done. Getting the taxes made permanent. Like, there's a lot. So it's not one thing. But to your point, it's not just a Chris Rock thing. He's not saying, I showed up every day and did X. He actually has hit the ball out of the park.
Yeah, but again, people think the president should be handling the border. The president
after Biden. I mean, seriously,
that's my point. That's my point. Biden. That's the whole point. Is that people think that should be done, and they're not giving Trump the credit for doing something that Biden didn't do. It just goes in well, that's what you should be doing. It's like, for example, the military's gone, so many days without somebody killed in a mistake. That's what should happen. And yet, if there was a mistake and all of a sudden, somebody got killed by a live fire accident, it'd be horrible. But you don't get credit for the stuff that doesn't happen.
Right.
And so when people don't come across the border unless and they don't, kill some college student, then you don't get credit for that not happening.
It was funny. There was a buddy of mine, this is like 20 years ago, and he was thinking about taking a job. And everybody who had taken the job before him kind of flailed, to be honest with you. And I won't say his name because he watches the show, but I said, listen, here's the deal. All you have to do is suck less. Like, you don't even have to do a good job. And I feel like that was where Trump was coming in after Biden. I mean, I get your point, but I feel like the border was wide open. So you just had to try and Trump would have gotten credit. He went from the border being overrun to now consecutive months of no one illegally coming into the country. He went from massive whatever to now June being the first month where the government in over a decade had a surplus. He actually didn't just do better than Biden. He crushed it. I get your point. I thought that it maybe the American people, at least the independents who had grown frustrated with a president that we never saw, would be like, wow, here's a president 7 days a week working for us.
Well, and again, I understand that. And I probably lean toward what you're saying more. But I recognize that the public kind of leans toward that's the stuff you're supposed to do. And I would love to tell you, but look at Biden's approval was upside down. I mean, most of the time from the minute of the Iraq invasion, from the Afghanistan evacuation, whatever you want to call it, a withdrawal.
Disaster.
He went back. His polling numbers did not recover. And so he was getting punished for not doing the things you're supposed to do. But unfortunately, doing the things you're supposed to do may just be what it takes to get you back to equilibrium.
You mentioned Epstein early on and that you guys bake it into the thing, but how big of a factor?
Question. Yeah.
What's that?
We just asked the question, are you, and we do have people who are dissatisfied. They feel like there's more there. And the thing is, I don't know I couldn't advise the Trump administration because I don't know one simple thing. I don't know what the truth is. It may very well be they put everything that's worth seeing out there. It may be that there is no there. I don't know the answer to that. But I do know that people have a feeling there's something that they're not being told, and that's what's driving it. But overall, they're not changing their opinion on Donald Trump based on it. They're frustrated on what's happening now.
So you're saying they're frustrated, but they're not changing their opinion.
Yeah, they're not leaving Trump over that. I mean, we've asked time and time again that they're not going to vote for the Democrat over that. It's like one of the things they wish that would be done differently, or maybe they knew more. In many cases, it might just be that they're frustrated because the information they want is sealed grand jury stuff and they can't have it. I don't know the answer. I just know that they don't feel good about it.
My take is that they set the expectation. And the Attorney General said, I've got files. If I tell you I've got something, I can show it to you. And you go, great, I want to see it. And then you go, I didn't have it. You go, you frustrate. I mean, I get mad now because I'm like, you told me you had something. I think they've got to figure out how to unwind this. But let's kind of just, in the time that we have left, the Republicans are headed into a midterm. They just passed the big, beautiful bill. I feel like, as of right now, 3 weeks, we passed it July 4th, so we're over a month out. I don't feel like they've done a good job selling it so far. Like, I don't see any. And
they started it, and they've done a good job in places. But what they really need to do is people need to feel it. And, not for anybody there listening to me, but if it were me,
they should.
What I would be saying is, take everybody. I think the tax cuts for the tips and stuff, I think they come into effect for 2026. Is that right?
Yeah.
For the tips and all right. So why not have the IRS generate a letter for everybody who's filed their taxes for 2024 and go ahead and say, hey, just for reference, as you plan for 2026, if you had the same income as your last tax return, you would pay this much less in taxes. Let them know what that number is. Because they say, hey, everybody's got a plan how they're going to spend in 2026. Why not have the IRS evaluate the last return they have on file for them and tell them how much more money they would have had based on the new tax relief on tips and overtime so they can plan their spending in 2026 based on it. A little letter from the IRS telling them how much more money they're going to have if they have the same tip or overtime income would sure light a fire under a lot of people who are not sure what the big, beautiful bill did for them.
I think that's brilliant. I actually, as you say it, I'm thinking, okay, and the Social Security Administration should send a letter saying, "Dear senior, who happens to be a high propensity voter, please note that next year you will not have to pay taxes on your Social Security. Therefore, blah, blah, blah." Same thing. I think
letting them know what the savings would be, because again, we're, hey, we're assuming you plan your spending based on your taxes. We wanted you to know that your taxes will be less if your income is relatively the same as the most recent tax return we have on file for you is 2024. In that year, you made this much in tips, this much in overtime, this much in Social Security. This is how many taxes you would have paid on that. This is how much more you would have to spend. Just let it. Just give an estimate.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's right.
It would fire up all of them, because then they would know that is money coming in their pocket. They can plan on starting January 1st. That will lead to a better Christmas. That'll lead to everything better.
I love it. Okay, so there's two things. Hey, Trump administration, get the IRS. And by the way, Scott Bessent is now the acting IRS commissioner as well as being Social Security. He's the Treasury Secretary. He's also now, they fired Billy Long. So he is now the acting IRS commissioner. So you could do that. And I think you're right on the tips portion as well. Get them to do the same thing on that. Or no, Social Security commissioner was in the White House yesterday, by the way. So that should be a good idea for him.
Overtime, tips, and just let them know what you'd have to spend in 2026 based on this kind of, and it's just like, hey, and then people start thinking, hey, this is money I got coming. And, Americans love to know about money they got coming.
So then the Democrats appear, even though the Medicaid portion won't even kick in until 2028 after the midterms, Democrats are pretty hell-bent on going after Medicaid as the attack line for Republicans. Here's my question for you. Not only is that an effective line of attack, but, I feel like my family's not on Medicaid. So the question is that an effective attack if I can't understand the attack? Does that make sense? Like, if I don't get Social Security.
If somebody tells me, let's say that I'm somehow getting some kind of Medicaid, but the effects of whatever they change won't have 2028. If I haven't seen a Medicaid effect, I got nothing to be upset about. So you can tell me Medicaid's been cut, but if I haven't felt it, then I got nothing tangible it can sound like, worse than it is, but I have no evidence that it's even affected me yet.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. A lot of these people who are above the poverty line and yet still on Medicaid, there's a lot of jobs coming to America. I mean, the best way to solve that problem is give that person a full-time job so they don't need Medicaid by 2028.
One of the things that I have found interesting is during the campaign, the MAHA agenda, the Make America Healthy agenda, kind of took off. Okay. And I felt like especially they called them MAHA moms. And there was women in particular that cared about the food that was going into their kids' body, ultra processed foods, forever plastics, right? All that kind of stuff that dies. Robert Kennedy, just this week, they continue to notch up some big wins. M&M Mars says Skittles are going to get the red dye taken out of all the dyes. Certain gums and other candies made by M&M Mars. Do you think that the MAHA agenda is something that, as we head into the midterms, should be kind of Republicans should build into their talking points?
Absolutely, because the thing is, the MAHA agenda, and I've seen this in polling again and again, can take a mother who isn't crazy about Trump personally and make them, and when they see that you're making life better and life safe for their children, that can make a mother who isn't crazy about Trump hold her nose and vote for Republicans when she's not used to doing it. And that is a swing voter. Believe it or not, a lot of those moms that care very much about their kids are not hardcore Republicans. Now, a lot of them are. But the fact is, it is a swing vote. And when they see real, credible progress on this, when they see MAHA is not about people being against vaccines, but being for more healthy foods for their kids, that opens the door for a swing voter. And so, yes, every Republican should be talking about that.
All right, so here's my last question for you. We are headed into the midterms. You guys just did a joint poll with Insider Advantage. You kind of alluded to this, but the survey of 1,200 likely voters had Trump at 50, approve, disapprove 40. And but what does that say about Congress? What should a rank and file member of Congress take away from what you guys are seeing as they head into the midterms in terms of the generic ballot, where they are vis-a-vis Democrats? Because here's my thing, Robert. I'll just give you my analysis. They're leaderless right now. Whether it's Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, Ken Martin, who technically is the chair of the DNC, but they also are financially screwed. If you look at Trump's super PAC and the RNC, they have over $300 million cash on hand, and the DNC has 13. So I feel like if you're a Republican and you can kind of maybe go into the midterms even, you'll win. So where are they?
Well, I think the midterms are going to be a showcase on the economy. I mean, no matter what anybody tells you right now, if the economy is rolling by next fall, the Republicans are going to hold on, maybe pick up seats. If the economy is not in good shape, it is not going to be good. And I'd love to tell you I know the answer to that, but I don't know, because the economy will determine the midterms. But what I can tell you is continuing to fight and talk about what the big beautiful bill has been accomplished, what is being accomplished by MAHA. These are the things that need to be as part of every door-to-door street fight for every House seat. You know, it is about swing voters, and that's the stuff that needs to be talked about. Because in every swing district in America, there are people who would have naturally voted Democrat who are going to get tax relief on Social Security, overtime, or tips. And every swing district in America, there are moms who would vote Democrat who are going to be happy with things in the MAHA agenda. If you push those things in those districts, the Republicans that hold the seats now can hang on, and a few others can be picked up. But that is where this fight is going to lie. And so, and you're talking about the generic ballot. Most of the polling that's making the generic ballot is coming from polling companies that failed in elections. So I would just look at that as a joke. Generic ballot a year out is just worthless. So generic ballot will start next summer. I'll tell you whether it means anything. Right now, it doesn't mean anything. It just doesn't. It is an exercise in futility. And most of the ones putting out the big generic ballot numbers with the wide swings had the same wide swings for Biden and for Harris last two elections. So just write them off. You know, odds are if the poll sponsored by letter, it's bad.
Like, for example, like the first three letters of the alphabet, or anyway. Robert Cahaly, I know you're out there on vacation. It looks absolutely stunning where you are. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to kick us into the weekend. I hope you and your family do have a great weekend, and we will see you back soon.
Absolutely. You guys have a great weekend as well.
Thank you, Robert. All right, guys, I hope you had a great day. What a great show. Thanks for kicking off Labor Day with us. We now are back into the work week where all systems go. We'll see you back here tomorrow on Tuesday for the Sean Spicer Show. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.